Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a geopolitical event that escalated so fast, the whole international community was basically scrambling just to keep up. We're looking back at March 27th, 2026. It's a textbook case of how modern military tech, maritime law, and regional tensions can literally collide in the blink of an eye. Let's get right into it. So how exactly does a single, weird blip on a radar screen nearly ignite a full-scale international conflict in just a matter of hours? Well, put yourself in the shoes of an on-duty officer sitting in an Iranian radar control room that day. It starts off as a totally normal shift, right? But then suddenly they spot something highly unusual, something that instantly breaks the pattern of standard maritime or aerial traffic. Two unidentified helicopters pop up on their radar, and they weren't just flying by. They circled several times in an area very close to Iran's airspace, hovered for a bit, and then just took off. Now, the radar operators identified them as AH-64 Apaches. That's a really crucial detail because Iran knew very well that this specific, highly advanced combat helicopter is possessed only by Israel and the United States. Under normal circumstances, military choppers don't just repeatedly circle a random patch of ocean and then leave without a clear reason. So even after they left, that control room was absolutely buzzing, asking why would they be hovering right there? What on earth was out in the water that would draw that level of firepower? Well, the mystery deepened really quickly. Just about 40 to 45 minutes later, another unidentified signal appears on the board. This time, it's a fighter jet. It flew out to those exact same coordinates, circled a few times, and then it left too. Now, while this was technically in international waters, it was sitting just outside Iran's formal maritime boundary. Seeing repeated advanced combat aircraft hovering out there, that was a massive red flag. So the sequence of events was pretty undeniable at this point. First, you've got the two Apaches. Second, the unidentified fighter jet shows up. Pushed to act, Iranian officials took step 3. They dispatched a Shahed 129 series drone. Because it's capable of flying several kilometers high, it could give them this perfect bird's-eye view of the water, all without putting a manned aircraft into what was looking like a potentially hostile zone. And when that drone beamed its visual feedback, the initial mystery was solved. But man, the tension absolutely skyrocketed. There, sitting in the water near the maritime boundary, was an Iranian cargo ship, proudly flying the Iranian flag, completely stopped. And positioned immediately alongside it, two unidentified military warships. Obviously, Iranian officials immediately attempted to hail their cargo ship, but they hit a total technological wall. The ship's transponder was turned completely off. And if you're not familiar, a transponder is basically the wireless communication beacon that authorities use to track vessels and initiate contact. With it off, there was an immediate, total communication blackout. Diplomacy began to break down incredibly fast here. Repeated attempts to hail the cargo ship just yielded nothing. Getting frustrated, Iran shifted their tactics. They transmitted a clear, direct message to those warships. Release the cargo ship, since it's operating in international waters and flying the Iranian flag. The response to that message? Total, deafening silence. And that lack of communication is exactly where the situation explodes onto the global stage. Iran issued a strong formal protest, sure, but then they went a massive step further. They issued a public warning for the general public to completely avoid a 1-kilometer radius surrounding Israel's Ben Gurion airport. So all of a sudden, a standoff at sea was directly threatening a major international civilian hub. When you look at the timeline, the speed of this escalation is truly staggering. 0 minutes, you have that initial radar anomaly. A few hours later, the drone is dispatched and communications fail. Shortly after that, an international airport warning is broadcast out. And literally moments later, the physical escalation begins. I mean, this didn't drag on for months. This whole thing unfolded in mere hours. Which brings us to the kinetic action. A few hours after that warning went out, missiles were launched, one after another, from a military base in Iran's Bushehr region, tearing into the sky. Following these launches, reports just started flooding the international media of extensive damage to Ben Gurion Airport. The threat had officially materialized into a direct strike. Now here is where we see the exact same event viewed through two completely different lenses. From Iran's perspective, the stopping of their flagged cargo ship by foreign warships was an aggressive seizure of national assets, something that required a severe response. But on the flip side, Israel released a statement asserting that the ship was stopped solely for a routine naval inspection. They stated it was just a brief hold to examine the vessel with absolutely no other hostile intent. So you have an act of aggression on one side versus a standard security check on the other. Surprisingly enough, though, despite the missile launches and this massive spike in global tension, a de-escalation followed almost as quickly as the buildup. Just a few hours after Israel issued that public statement categorizing the event as a routine inspection, the detained Iranian cargo ship was finally released. The warships backed off, and the vessel was permitted to continue on its journey. Just like that, the immediate maritime standoff was over. However, the geopolitical echoes of this incident remained loud and clear. Following the release of the ship, Iran formally issued a concluding message to the international community. They stated that if anyone attempted to take action against any of Iran's assets, cargo ships, or other vessels, a severe response would follow. They made it incredibly clear that the safety of their maritime trade routes is an absolute red line. Which really leaves us with a pretty big question to ponder. In an era where every single radar blip is tracked, where high-altitude drones can provide live visual feeds of isolated ocean waters in minutes, and where military assets are just so hyper-connected, can any naval inspection truly remain routine? What we saw on March 27, 2026, is that without open lines of communication, an everyday maritime encounter can spiral into international missile strikes in a matter of hours. It's a pretty powerful reminder of just how fragile global stability can be. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope this breakdown gave you a clear understanding of how quickly the modern world can pivot from calm to crisis. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.